Okay, so I went to Winco. Um, I bought some stuff that I typically wouldn't even buy, right? There was a lot of preservatives, right? I bought a couple of boxes of cereal, right? Shredded wheat, Raisin Bran, and then I bought Pop-Tarts, right? And crackers. Okay, these are things, I haven't bought in I don't know how long, but I bought them today. You see, this is what happens when, our society invoke fear, right? So when you start thinking about having to have at least some food that you can eat that doesn't require cooking, that doesn't require refrigeration, you start looking at things like crackers, Pop-Tarts, cereal, right? And of course, the reason why I even stepped outside was to get some toilet paper, because I needed some toilet paper. My toilet paper is on double duty, right? It has to wipe my ass and also wipe my nose. And my nose is draining a lot more than my ass sometimes. But yesterday, for whatever reason, I did have a case of diarrhea and also vomiting, right? However, I was not feeling sick, okay? I just felt like, that like I had the runs, and once I vomited, my food, and there was no food to vomit, I was good, right? Kind of like, how, if you ever gotten drunk, right? You've gotten drunk and you feel nauseous, right? But once you let it out, it's like, what a relief. What a relief. That's kind of what it felt like. Felt like I was nauseous, and whatever had to come out, had to come out. Right? I'm going to attribute that to ascension symptoms. I rarely get a symptoms that severe. But, sometimes you can get, severe ascension symptoms. So, it's 48 degrees out here today. The clouds are out. It's gray. Kind of reminds me of Seattle. Yes, it does. It reminds me of Seattle. I did my lightweight exercises already. I also walked my mile. I know that I have to step up my game to may that affect all your work habits. Okay? Your impatience may deplete your pockets. Yeah. So, that guy was on my tail. And even though he was on my tail, he's still gonna have to wait for at least the next light to even make a turn. rushing me for what? Because he's upset. All right. So shout out to DoorDash, right? DoorDash, in her last 2 videos that I seen today, this morning, was really striking home, right? She was stating that, hey, you really got to do something different if you want things to change. You can't keep doing the same thing expecting for things to change, right? So that comes where, I'm telling myself, right, that I have to increase my energy, right? It's a very delicate balance sometimes, because sometimes, in the hopes of pushing myself, that I end up, causing pain that will eventually hinder future progress. Okay? Like in the form of fibromyalgia, or just, stiffness and pain that feels like arthritis. I don't know. It just seems to go that way. So, I've been walking my mile every day, right? I think there might have been one day, I didn't want to walk a mile, so I walked a half a mile. Now, this is because, I had completely, lost hope of ever being able to walk 5 miles. And why did I do that? Because I'm rebellious at walking because I'm not able to run. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, I can't run, therefore I don't want to walk, right? Because I used to be a runner, right? I used to run like 3 to 5 miles a day. Loved it, right? And even though I have, a puppy that, could go walking or running with me in the future, I'm like, now it's on me, right? Now it's on me. Do you just say, what happened was, let me tell you what happened. What happened was, I'm talking to my daughter about, the PD perhaps needing, to get some exercise, like running, right? Me and Snoopy, we're too laid back, for a young puppy like her, who's still developing. And she said, well, you can pay somebody to walk your dog or run your dog. And it was like, yeah, but why would I? Why would I pay somebody to walk or run my dog? Have I given up on myself that much? And the thought was no, right? And then it was like, okay, so what are you going to do? You're doing the bare minimum, right? And of course, I had to start doing the bare minimum because I had an issue with asthma, something going on with my bronchial system. And, ever since I suffered the flu back in February, I've been having, like breathing problems, okay? That the mucus and congestion have been so severe that I literally thought I was choking. I was being asphyxiated, right? So that's scary to me. It's really scary, right? When, you can't even blow your nose to get enough out to clear the passage. And it's so dense and it's also has dropped down into, that area where, your throat and, your nostrils meet or something like that. And it was so dense there, so thick, right? So, okay, the library has downloadable books. Huh. How does that work? I'm gonna have to try to look that up and see how that works. Because you download the book for free, and then what? They let you keep it they let you keep the download? Or you have to send the download back? Or, well, I'm gonna have to look and see how that works. Because that's interesting. So yeah, new day and age, honestly, yes, I am, behind in the times, because, we were at the forefront. We initiated a better life, right? We initiated that. I was looking at Soul Train dancers, right? And I was just in awe, of, the type of rhythm, that we had. Even people like James Caan, right? He's been on there. Andre the Giant, he's been on there. Muhammad Ali, Bruce Lee, they all was on the Soul Train line, right? And it just blew my mind. Now, maybe that was, what do you call it? AI generated. It could be, because, they were it just really just shocked me that, that they had, a je ne sais quoi, right? About, their rhythm. And that's why I'm saying, we were at the forefront of this, and this rhythm, this vibration, this frequency is what initiated huge transformations that happen on a frequency level that was massive. It made it happen without people even knowing that it's happening to them, because they just are tuned into the frequency. Do you understand? So, what is going on today is slowly, right? People are becoming more aware of spirituality, and how spirituality can also help them to manifest, and how manifestation can happen in so many areas of their life, right? It doesn't have to just be, money. It doesn't have to just be a relationship, a romantic relationship, right? It could be so much in between, so many other things in between. Here's the thing, right? Now that people are actually seeing themselves as spiritual beings, a lot of them, are empowering themselves. Instead of, waiting for somebody to come and save them, right? One of the things that has crossed my mind today was the fact that, a lot of us have been let down with the people that we thought was going to help us or was going to save us. Usually that's, in my opinion, the men in the family, because we have placed so much responsibility on their backs, on their shoulders, that, they couldn't handle it. Look at that dog. That looks like my Pitty. Huh? I hope she doesn't look that ugly. My Snoopy, no doubt about it. I think she's so beautiful, right? But this gray Pitty, she was the cutest puppy. However, I don't know. She's not coming across as, like beautiful to me. Cute, but not beautiful. Right? I like her more. I think I'll like her more. I think I will like her more. Let's put it that way. I think I will like her more when she becomes fully grown. Okay? This is just, I think, may not be true, or could possibly be 100% true. Anyway, getting back to what I was talking about, right? We went through our lives, with family members who are male, taking advantage of our energy, right? They expected us to wash their dishes. They expected us to keep their toilet clean. They expected us to do the chores around the house. We were expected to help mom, right? If nothing else. Even if we didn't put it in our minds to say, we were cleaning up after the guys in the house, but because mom was cleaning up after the guys in the house, we wanted to help mom because mom was tired, right? And yeah, that would be inhumane to sit there and let our mother suffer that way. What is this? Somebody get evicted? Oh, they put blankets. They put blankets on the plants. Yes, that's another thing. For those of you who have plants that you love and care for, because we have freezing, icy storm stormy weather for coming up for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, something like that. 3 days. You know, it would behoove you to cover your plants. Right? Cover your effing plants. So here was another thing. I'm watching this guy remove the nails out of this fencing. Okay? Now, when I was working at the air house, for whatever reason, my tires were always going flat, right? And occasionally, let's just say like once or twice every month or two, right? I would get a nail in my tire, right? And I'm thinking to myself, you know, how in the hell are these fucking nails falling out of the fucking sky, landing onto my tire? Now, I don't believe in coincidence. Okay? I don't believe in coincidence that way. Right? Because number one, you know, most of the time I've bought nails, right? And I know that the hardware store, you know, usually charges you by the nail, right? And I'm thinking to myself, who in the hell, you know, is out here squandering nails to the point where, you know, me and other people are suffering with nails caught in our tires, giving business to the tire company to either have to plug or replace our tire. Hold on. And the saddest part about it is, you know, us women, you know, we would be in denial rather than believe that men will go to that extent, right, of making people suffer tragically, right, because of them hoping, wishing, and praying, you know, to keep their tire business in operation. Right? Because the average person, we're not going to discount tires to buy brand new tires. And even if we were, you know, even discount tires would appreciate it. And discount tires is not hiring women to change tires. They just aren't. Right? Okay. So here's a mortgage assisted application. They also provided a HUD number and counseling, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau consumerfinance.gov, mortgage help if you need assistance with translation, right? And then here's this whole application. All right. So now they want your financial expense debt summary, right? Buyer requesting the review of a short sale pre-foreclosure sale must include this is for veterans. They get an opportunity for a short sale or pre-foreclosure sale. Okay. So yeah, I don't know where these people are getting their information, okay? But I don't know how I'm even getting mail from my first marriage from 40 years ago. Okay. So yeah, let's keep it real. These screws that are fucking up our tires, they are not falling off of these houses and landing, in your tire. Okay? They're not. It comes from careless men, right? Men who are out here buying, removing these nails and discarding them, or purposefully, sabotaging people's private property. And that's what we're in denial about, right? Because we don't think that men have the capacity you know, to organize and plan such devious uh, strategy, right? But realistically, men have, more devious strategy than we even realize. Okay. I mean, like I said, from the time that we were children at home, right, to where, they're strategizing the fact that the woman is, going to, do everything and they're going to be in charge, to the point where, they're setting up these whole governments, these whole societies of where, women are their playthings and then discarded, like trash. Whereas, other women, they decide they're going to be, the legitimate uh, family that they selected, even though they may have ran through, you know, 800 people, kind of like Solomon, right? Solomon, who ran through 800 people and 200 concubines and so many prostitutes. Well, that's the thought of the average man, right? And then they want to be worshiped because, I don't know, they think that building a house is something that they should be worshiped for. They want to say that, the family that they did invest in makes them worthy of being invested in, right? Even though they may have been evicted 4 or 5 times in their lifetime. That one house that they were able to finally, have, now they're, Solomon, right? That one family that they were able to, I don't know, maybe raise and appear as if, they established, a lineage, right, is going to totally discount the fact that, they went through 800 people, thousands of people in their lifetime. I mean, realistically, this doesn't make sense. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. Right? And it really starts to make, weird sense when you start thinking about, legitimizing homosexuality. Like I said, there's just no way that I'm going to be with somebody that, has sex with a man. That's just too much biocontamination to me, right? And the mere fact that men already show such a huge disconnect with women that they could actually get into intimate relationships with another man, ain't no way I'm going to believe that they would ever, want to love a woman or me. Okay? So now I have to make an application to my loan company, right? To get them to get off my back, right? Now, let's be honest. They are letting people off. They are. They're giving people loan forgiveness that other people won't get. They will never know about. They'll give some people an opportunity, to extend their loans, right? Without penalties. Okay? We've seen that. We've seen that happen when the government shut down, right? When the government shut down and they weren't paid for a whole month, right? Everybody that could justify that they had a government job had to go to their creditors, their mortgagers, their rental management companies, and tell them that they need an extension. Right? To forego the normal measures that they usually would take of, charging late charges and threatening evictions and threatening credit collections. Okay? And they did this, and they have the ability to do this. See, this is why a lot of people hate the system. They hate the system because they know the system can or may not work in their favor. When the system don't work in their favor, they hate the system. When the system works in their favor, they don't see nothing wrong with the system. It's okay. Right? So, anyway, I'm back at home, and I'm going to go ahead and upload these two videos that I made. You know, I did want to talk about, some of the estrangement that happens, while women are in denial, right? The estrangement happens in the family. I always question how come I had to, get the leg of the chicken when I don't like dark meat. I always ask why they thought that I was the one that needed to wash the dishes and sweep the floor, and set the table. I asked, and I didn't feel like the answer was adequate when my brother was actually older than me. He didn't have to do that. And I was told, his job was to empty the garbage. Right? So then people don't even recognize that even as we get older, right? The women, are treated differently in the schools. The women are treated differently in the religious organizations. The women are treated differently in the relationship. Okay? Like I said, Solomon, he's able to have 1,000 people, 1,000 bodies, right? That all men aspire to be a great king on the land. But, that's not the same thing that they wish for women. No. Matter of fact, they want her to be pure. And if they have to, be a pedophile to steal her innocence, they'll do it. All right? So then, women are supposed to sacrifice their education, sacrifice their career, sacrifice their own needs and wants, for the family, that they grew up in. And then the family that's supposed to be created with the man that she's supposed to be in love with, right? And women are now starting to figure out, are they in love with these men? Or are they just fulfilling a need, right? And the need is, well, the men have made it impossible for them to stay at their family's home because he's always getting her to break the rules of their family, right? He's always an intruder on the family, to the point where at some point she's going to have to choose him or her family. And that seems like his whole motive is to get her rejected by her family, choose him, be at his mercy, and depending on how he feels, depends on how he'll treat her, right? If he is in a fucked up mood, he may totally exploit her. He may totally sexploit her. He may, turn her into a mule for drugs and prostitution. Okay? That's how they act. Okay? And if she can't go back home because he had already made her choose between her family, right? She's expecting him to honor her choice that she selected him. And he's telling her, yeah, right or wrong, you should follow your man, right? And she's like, okay, right? So then she's thinking that she's following this man, right? Because, oh my gosh, at some point within a year, 2, 4, 5 years, she done got pregnant. But now he made sure that he got soul ties with her. Yeah, a baby is another soul tie. It is. That's a soul, and it's tied to you and him, right? And a lot of these men had these images of having several tribes of families, that they could, be proud of, or hoping that they could be proud of these several tribes of families, right? They don't get so proud when, they see that there's another man that's head of the household of these tribes, of their family. They don't like that, right? So now they're sabotaging the women. They're sabotaging the future of the children, and yeah, and they're doing this out of, embarrassment and jealousy. Okay, let's keep it real, right? They're telling these men, he left his woman, his baby mama, because she wasn't nothing but a whore. She wasn't a good wife. She didn't clean up. And he don't care if the man is like, if the man is stating that, well, he doesn't need a woman to clean up, right? He can pay for a maid to come in once a week. All she has to do is the bare minimum, which is what? Clean, wash the dishes. That's it. She don't have to make sure that, the dusting is done and the baseboards are clean and the walls around the toilet get, wiped down. He pays for a maid, right? And he's like, and she's a great cook. And when she doesn't want to cook, he likes to cook, right? So these men, will sit up here and have all of these grand ideas that are really fruitless, right? Well, they have bad fruit. Okay, they have fruit, but they have bad fruit. The fruit spoils. The fruit is fake fruit. The love was fake love. The children are the ones that suffer. So now they grow up and they get into relationships that also look like fake love, right? So now they have these whole societies of swingers, drug addicts, and sexploiters. And the sexploiters can be male, female, young, and even old. That really just surprised me when, it was like, I guess hell has no discrimination either, right? Because you can be an old fart stanking up the air, and they still will want to even exploit it. And I was like, really? You know, why? But, they don't even understand why they do it. They just do it, for the sensation of doing it. If somebody wants to pay to watch them do it, yeah, histrionics to the 33rd degree. All right. So then, here's what I see happening, with our women, right? With our women. When I see a woman and our relationship has changed, right? Because I'm like, look, you're a woman, I'm a woman. What's wrong with you, right? And that's immediately what I think. What is wrong with you? We're both women. We don't have to compete with each other. No. Right? And if we do, then that automatically lets me know that this woman is highly influenced by the masculine misogyny. All right? Because why would she feel like she has to compete with a woman? There is no competition. Competition is an illusion. Masculine and feminine concepts are an illusion. Being a woman is not an illusion, and being a man is not an illusion. But those concepts of masculinity and femininity is an illusion. And I'm going to leave it there to let you think about what I'm talking about. Okay?